Welcome back to Cards and Comics, guys. Today I'm going to have another 90s insert set review. And for those who tune in for the first time, I only do insert set reviews for card sets I actually own. So I actually have the cards in front of me. I'm going to show them off to you guys while I do the review. And we're going to back in time a little bit to 1994 and insert set from a product that you wouldn't expect to have, let's say, cool inserts. And this was 1994 Triple Play Medalist. Now, Triple Play, for those who don't remember back in the 90s, was a entry-level base set kind of product that was supposed to be cheap. And in 1994, when the insert craze was kind of starting, so you had the first year of 93 Finest. You had a lot of inserts coming out in 1992 through 1993. And so, I think they decided, hey, look, we're going to try to make a better product. We're going to try to upscale, this is Donruss that made Triple Play. We're going to upscale a set that had traditionally been a very low price point, kind of a kid set, and trying to make it have some value, trying to get some cool inserts. And this was one of the insert sets that came out of that product that to me was at least interesting in how they designed it. There's 3 cards, 3 players per card, 15 cards in the set, 1 of 12 packs. So there's 2 of these per box. And there's no duplicate of players on the cards. There's 45 players in the set, which is a lot of players. So from that breakdown, I'll show you the set, and then we'll walk through it a little bit. But here is the set right here, and we'll go through each card. So we'll start, I think, card 1. I want to make sure I got a number right. Yeah, card 1. And now the idea here of this set was you have a different position in each league. And so they basically have kind of determined who is the best, second best, and third best. So you got the gold, silver, and bronze from each position. So here is catcher. So it's Chris Hoiles, American League, Mickey Tettleton, and Brian Harper. And we'll talk about design real quick, because I do think the design was cool. I think this 3 players per card idea, has been done. There's league leaders, there's cards like that, right? I've never seen a set like this where there was no repeats, where you have kind of like the best of our league leader cards and you don't repeat any player. Like you don't have like 6 cards with King Griffey Jr. on it. So that's a little unusual. The silver, the gold, the foiling here is really cool. I do like that design quite a bit. I got to give them props for that design. The back, it's just, it's Triple Play. They did a good job on the front, different color foil, and that's a very clean design. So, from a design perspective, I gave it a 6. I think it's a little unique. It doesn't exist like this. You don't see a lot of cards like this, so it's kind of unique. So the big negative here, and again, for some people, this is not going to be a big deal. For me, just from a negative perspective here, is that multiplayer cards generally people don't like as much, because there's always 1 or 2 cards or 1 or 2 players on a card that you don't want in your collection. So if you were a Chris Hoiles guy, you don't really want a Brian Harper in your collection. And so it does limit the collectability of this set a little bit. And design-wise, it doesn't have a lot else going on other than just colored foil. So, you could argue it could go to a 7 because it's early in the 90s. I think there was a lot of cool designs in the 90s. It's not shiny in terms of like there's no, refractoring. There was Dufex at the time. There was refractors at the time. There was, Donruss Elite had shiny foil. So I think they could have done a little bit more with the design. So again, clean, above average. I gave it a 6. But even if the little metals here were just a little shinier, because we saw that in Leaf, right, where they had just kind of the logo be shiny. So they could have done a little bit more with the design. And the fact it's a multiplayer card kind of also hurts it from my perspective. So that's just how I look at it. So we'll go through some of the cards here. So I think it's the one other design thing that's hard for me. So just looking at the card here, so this is Harold Baines, Paul Molitor, and Dave Winfield. I'm assuming this is DH, and I'm going to look at the card a little bit closer here to see if it says what it is. Yeah, it is. So it actually says it in the foil stamping, what the actual position is. So it says designated hitter right there. It's a little hard to see, and I think I got bad eyesight, so that makes it just almost impossible for me to see what that actually says in the foiling. So that also is a little distracting. If they could have just maybe on the back put like designated hitter, like around, or something else to tell you what this card was, because now obviously if you know your players real well, you'll be, oh, he's a first baseman, second baseman, but you got to remember, like, a lot of guys played first base, a lot of guys played DH. Frank Thomas is a good example. So there was players who played multiple positions. So I mean, somewhat could be a little confusing. But there's that one, and that one has 2 Hall of Famers on it. So I mean, from that perspective, good. Here's pitchers. Another thing too, the set doesn't really go in order. So like this is card 3. So we went from catcher to DH in the American League to pitcher in the National League. So another thing too is they could have put like back to back, like catcher, first base, and that would have made the flow a little bit better. But they didn't do that. So here you got Rijo, Maddox, and Bill Swift. So again, this is a great example of, if you're a Maddox collector, I'm not sure you're really cool about, you're really, awesome to have a Bill Swift in your collection, right? So it's just an example of why some people don't like having multiplayer cards, especially paying a lot of money for them, right? We'll get into the value there in a minute. Mark Grace, Fred McGriff, Jeff Bagwell. Again, this is a really cool card. A lot of good players there. So again, it's not like every card has like a bunch of duds, but there are some cards in here. Like this is a good example. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. So yeah, here is 2 Hall of Famers and 1 pretty good player. And the pretty good player is the one that's the gold, not Cal Ripken, which is weird. Okay. Here's Barry Larkin, Jay Bell, so a Pirate finally, and Jeff Blauser, who I really hated because he played for the Atlanta Braves when I was a big Pirate fan. Still a Pirate fan, but definitely the recent struggles have hurt my love a little bit. I guess this is third baseman, right? Wade Boggs, Travis Fryman, Robin Ventura. Here we go. This is American League third or National League third baseman, I think. I know Terry Pendleton played third. If I look at it, it says, third base. So, because Sheffield played a lot of positions. So again, so here's a good one. I think this is like a really, really cool card for the 90s. Griffey, Puckett, and Bell. So that's a good one. I mean, Bell, was an amazing player. He definitely, if he had played another 3 to 5 years, I think he could have been really close to Hall of Fame. This is a cool one for me. Kind of painful to have Bonds and Van Slyke on the same card, but 2 different uniforms. Lenny Dykstra, who's kind of a jerk. Jack McDowell, Kevin Brown, Randy Johnson. Again, Jack McDowell. He won a Cy Young, so I understand that a little bit. And there's the catcher. So you got Rick Wilkins, Kurt Manwaring, Darren Dalton. And you can just see how there were time periods in baseball where certain positions were really weak. And this is like a good example of like catchers in the National League in the early 90s wasn't great. Yeah, Piazza come along and that really helped. But, this is sort of like, not quite the healthy, awesome catchers there. And then there you go. First baseman, you got Frank Thomas, Palmeiro, and John Olerud. And again, this guy would have been a Hall of Famer, and this guy is really underrated, was a great player. He wasn't a big power hitter, so that really hurt him because in the 90s, everyone was a big power hitter. But he was a great player. Look at his stats. He was a really good player for a long time. So that's the set. So I'll break it down a little bit. So we just went through all the players, 45 players, right? And I'll pull out some of the cool cards here just to put them on display. I do think that the Griffey card is a cool card, and he is gold. So that kind of helps that he is one of the gold cards. But yeah, like, if you get down to it, like, a little too far. There are cool cards in the set. I think it's definitely early design, early cards, early cool insert. So I'm not going to be overly like I said, I gave it above average, but player wise, 45 players, 17 of the 45 players are Hall of Famers, 38%, and 12 of the 15 cards have a Hall of Famer on it. So yeah, it's a little bit, so 38% Hall of Famers. To be above average for the set, you'd have had to have like 50% Hall of Famers, in my opinion. So and again, there's 45 players, so 22 or 23 would have had to have been Hall of Famers to get to that 50-50 ratio. It's a tall order, I get that. But there's a lot of players, and two of the cards, or three of the cards don't have any Hall of Famers. So it's just pretty mediocre. And in some cases, like the Cal Ripken card, where I think clearly he should have been the gold card. But, there's cards like that too, where you don't have, and this is two cases where, yes, the best player that people want to collect is the gold player, which is Griffey and Thomas. They're not very rare. So, for player selection, gave it a 5. Set rarity, 1 in 12. Even back in that time period, wasn't 2 per box. You would need and then 1 in 6 in jumbo. Actually, I'm sorry, these were 36 pack boxes, so you got 3 per box, and then you got 4 in a jumbo. So it would take still quite a few boxes. You would need 15 boxes to get a set. Or 4 jumbo boxes. So, you need 5 regular boxes or 4 jumbo boxes to get a set. So, but you got to remember, they printed a lot of this. So that's a lot. There's a lot of cards printed. I dropped something. A lot of these cards are printed. This is the entry level product. It was low priced. So they printed a lot of it and went to like retail stores. So they're very easily to obtain. They're not really rare. They, again, you say, well, you need 5 boxes to get a set. That's still not hard to do because of just how printed this product was. So I gave it a 3 on rarity. Again, 3 per box. Just not that rare, even back in the day of 1994. Set design, again, I mentioned I gave it a 6. And then set value. So I looked at some prices here. So you can buy a whole box for $35 today. So if you bought 5 boxes, it'd be $175. If you got perfect collation, you get a set. But on the secondary market, you can get a full set for $20 to $50. So that is about $2 to $3 a card. Griffey can go from $5 to $20 raw. And then a PSA 10, Griffey sold for $150 a couple years ago. I have no doubt this PSA 10 Griffey today would sell between $400 and $600 as a 10 today. So it's a low pop count. So if you were to tell me like, hey, I'm going to open up 10 boxes of this product and grade every Griffey I get, and try to get some 10s, I'm like, that's fine. It's a cheap product. You could buy 10 boxes for $350. $350, get 10 boxes. You're going to get, 30 of these cards, and you might get 2 or 3 Griffies, and you might get a 10 and make $400 or $500 off that Griffey 10. But there's no other cards in that set really worth grading. I'm not sure what a Frank Thomas 10 would sell for. I'm assuming $100 maybe if you got the 10, but that's a big if. So I don't know, like, value wise, if it's worth to try to chase the 10. I think that's why it's such a low pop, is because these cards are condition sensitive. They're foil. They come out of the pack with scratches and dings. That's just what happens. So it's one of those cards where, yeah, if you got a 10 on it, it'd be worthwhile, but you may have to open like 20 boxes to get a 10, and then the value isn't there. So, I gave it a 2 on value. I didn't give it any bonus points. Because again, it's 94. It's not the beginning of inserts, still early. It's not that unique of a design. There was multiple player cards before this, even insert. So like there was team leader cards. I mean, there was all kinds of cards designs already like this in terms of just multiple players. I don't think this kind of metal design, 3 gold, silver, bronze on one card is enough to give it a bonus point, to give it like some sort of like, it's not a set someone just has to have. It's not a card where people are going like, oh, I got to have this card for my Griffey collection. I'm missing this card. It's like, it's not like Pinnacle Skylines or a Cut Above or a Lynchpin or something where someone says my Griffey collection isn't complete without this Medalist card, right? So it's not like that design. So to me, it didn't get any kind of bonus points. It didn't have any cool technology. Everything on this card, from a design and just how it was made, was pretty stock. It's clean, well done, but it doesn't deserve bonus. So overall score was 16. When we convert it back to the 100-point scale, it's a 40 score, which in our ratings would give this the second lowest rating of any product, just right above the last product, the 1999 Bowman Late Bloomer. So it's the second worst rated product I've done, but I'll give it this caveat of this: it's cheap. It's a fun product to kind of, if you were just going to look at a product to have a cheap, fun $35 box break, and you pull a Griffey or a Frank Thomas card out of it that looks like this, you're not going to be upset. You can get these cards again, this card for $5 to $20 raw on the open market. This is probably a $2 to $3 card on the open market. So it's a cheap, fun card. You can buy the whole set if you just like how it looks. And so it's definitely not an ugly card. It's not a card that just, makes me go like, I just hate, I would never want this on my collection. It just falls into that whole period of the 90s when everything was just evolving so fast and set designs were just changing over and over and over, set to set, to where technology had just evolved, where even simple foil cards like this were just kind of like, they were bland even by 94 standards. So it falls into that category of just not being innovative enough for some collectors to be like, I love this card, need it in my collection. So it's if you're looking for a cheap, cool, fun card, and if you're a 10 guy who thinks, hey, I can find one of these cards in the dollar bin, which you probably could, and want to try to get your 10 on, it's one of those cards where I guarantee you, if you got a 10 of this card, there is a Griffey collector who wants to give you a lot of money for it because it is a low pop. So there is that silver lining if you want to try that game. So there it is, guys. 1994 AAA Medalist. Interesting designs, interesting product. But I think we're going to see some cooler products pretty soon on the channel. I got a few sets I put together that I think you'll love and want to see me review. So stick around. I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.